Today's news story is going to be focused on the Ballerina, an upcoming project from Lionsgate Studio. This is one of those projects that hasn't gotten a ton of attention, despite its connection to a major film franchise. But that might change now that it's finally found its lead. But more on that in just a bit. In terms of great action films, there are easily two that stand out in the current market: the Tom Cruise-led Mission Impossible films and the John Wick franchise. The latter was meant to be a small project until it blew up, becoming a viable franchise for the studio. Now with 3 successful films under their belts, the filmmakers behind the John Wick franchise are looking to tell more stories set within the same universe. We've known since the release of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum that the studio had plans to expand on the universe with 2 potential spin-offs. The first being one centered around the Continental, the fictional hotel for assassins featured in the first 3 films, and another about a female assassin called the Ballerina. Production on the Continental is gearing up to start, with a full cast in place to start filming on the series. Moving over to the Ballerina, we've only heard a few details regarding the project, in the 2 years since it was announced. Now for the first time since the film's announcement, the Ballerina may have found its lead. Ana de Armas is in talks to headline the project, which will see her play a young female assassin seeking revenge on those who killed the family. Usually when an actor or actress is in talks for a role, it means they are close to finalizing a deal with the studio, and the talent is locked into playing the role being offered. I'm sure there were a number of actresses in consideration for the role, but now that Ana de Armas is the frontrunner, I can't imagine anyone else who will be suitable to headline this film. The Cuban star is not necessarily an actress that everyone will be familiar with by name, but she's definitely a recognizable face that has popped up in a number of hot properties. Her first English-speaking role saw her starring alongside John Wick himself, the ever-wonderful Keanu Reeves in Knock Knock. The 2015 psychological thriller sees 2 women, one of whom is played by de Armas, being invited into a married man's house after claiming to be stranded. They then seduce him in a ploy to ruin his life. Surprisingly, this film is directed by Eli Roth, who is known for his grotesque body horror. Yet this film is toned down from his usual work. De Armas, along with her co-star Lorenza Izzo, make for a wonderful, unhinged yet delightful pair. I honestly had no idea where this film would go, but it really put Keanu Reeves' character through the ringer. There's also Blade Runner 2049, where she played Joy, the holographic AI girlfriend to Ryan Gosling's character. There are a number of emotional moments in the film involving her character, who expresses feelings which make you question if they are genuine or just a programming. This is another project where I think a lot of people started to take notice of the actress, who was still an unknown despite being in one of the biggest films of the year. Although the film wasn't a huge success at the box office, it was well received and helped to push the actress's career. 2019 was a big year for Ana de Armas, who finally made a breakout in Hollywood, 4 years after her debut in the industry. She appeared in 3 films that year, starting with Wasp Network. There she played Ana Margarita Martinez, a Cuban exile who marries Juan Pablo Roque, a fellow exile who is later revealed to be a Cuban spy. Wagner Moura plays her husband in the film, which marked the first time the actors would play on-screen lovers. The following year they appeared together in Sergio. Next up, she appeared in The Informer, where she played Joel Kinnaman's wife. The crime thriller follows Peter Kloslow, a former ex-con who now works for the FBI as their informant. When his sting operation goes out, he's caught in a crossfire between the mob and the FBI, which in turn puts his family in danger. Unlike some of her previous work where the actress was a standout, she didn't quite steal the show in this film. Nevertheless, she gave a good performance that helped add some emotional stakes to the story. Her next major role saw her star in a whodunit alongside Daniel Craig, who the actress would later reteam with in a much bigger franchise film. More on that in just a sec. Ever since seeing her in Knives Out, I've had an appreciation for her as an actress. In the Rian Johnson-directed film, she played Marta Cabrera, a nurse who becomes one of the suspects in a murder investigation, following the untimely death of her client. In an all-star cast that included the likes of Jamie Lee Curtis, Daniel Craig, Toni Collette, and the late great Christopher Plummer, to name a few of the talent attached to the film. It's amazing she was able to be the standout amongst more widely recognized performers. In fact, she stole the film. It was all down to her screen presence, and just the level of charm she brought to the role, as well as being easy on the eyes. The Spanish actress is definitely up there with some of the most beautiful women currently working in Hollywood. I was enamored by the actress, and that only grew when she appeared in a recent James Bond movie, No Time to Die. There she played Paloma, a rookie CIA operative who is partnered with Bond for an assignment in Cuba. This was the second time working with Daniel Craig, following their appearing in Knives Out, where the two had wonderful on-screen chemistry. With only 10 minutes of screen time to make an impression, she was used to perfection. The actress stole the show and had arguably one of the best scenes in the entire film. despite admitting she only had 3 weeks of training before her mission. And being nervous, she was highly effective when things became heated. Seeing her keep up with Bond and take down bad guys is a joy to witness, especially when she gets her hands on a machine gun. Her role in Bond was the best showcase as to why she's ready to become an action star. The way she handled herself with the fight choreography was exceptional, and that was only a small sequence. Just imagine what she'll be able to do once we see her fully unleashing the ballerina. Following her brief role in Bond, the actress continued to kick ass in her latest project. This time around, she had plenty of time to showcase her fighting skills in a number of action sequences. The Grey Man saw the actress reuniting with 2 of her former co-stars, Ryan Gosling, who worked with her on Blade Runner 2049, and Chris Evans from her breakout film Knives Out. In the Russo brothers' directed movie, she played Danny Miranda, a CIA agent who allies herself with Sierra 6, Gosling's character who is on the run throughout the film. With 2 action films under her belt and a 3rd in her sights, she's definitely achieved action star status. Like most actors nowadays who are cast in action films, she does her own stunts. It's always more impactful seeing actors doing their own stunts when necessary and not relying entirely on a stunt double. There's a ton of behind the scenes footage and images of her learning fight choreography and how to use weapons. Watching her put in the work before filming and the final results is unbelievable. She really has evolved as a talent. Now, I know that a ballerina being a covert assassin is nothing new under the sun. It's been a common trope reused in a number of films. We've had Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow / Natasha Romanoff, a Russian spy who was raised in a Red Room. The training program molded young women into elite spies known as Black Widows. Part of their training involved learning ballet, as seen in a dream sequence / vision Natasha had in Avengers Age of Ultron. The comic book movie isn't the only film that plays into the trope. The 2018 Jennifer Lawrence-led thriller, Red Sparrow, is perhaps the best example of the concept on the big screen. Lawrence played a Russian ballerina, who after receiving a career-ending injury, she's left with no choice but to work for the SVR, also known as the Foreign Intelligence Service of the Russian Federation. Her character gets sent to a school dedicated to training operatives how to seduce their targets. Without getting too much into the plot, it pretty much had all the usual cliches you'd have in a film about a female Russian spy. Not even an Academy Award-winning actress could salvage this film, which suffered largely because of its script. Maybe the ballerina will be the one to run the trope into the ground, or it will end up being entertaining enough to stand alongside the aforementioned films. The ballerina will have the benefit of being linked to an established franchise that has managed to balance action with storytelling. Something which most action movies often struggle to maintain, and end up becoming dull by trying to hinge the film solely on its action. The main aim of this film is to create a compelling story that could stand on its own, but at the same time fit seamlessly into the John Wick universe. They have to do that whilst trying not to come across as a female clone of John Wick. Ever since the action flick became a box office hit, Hollywood has churned out a number of films that borrow heavily from the franchise. There's the 2017 film Atomic Blonde, which was dubbed the female John Wick. The similarities between the 2 films aren't coincidental. They were both made by the same director. While uncredited for his work, David Leitch co-directed the first John Wick film with Chad Stahelski. Both filmmakers started their career as stuntmen before shifting their focus to directing. Even though Leitch left the franchise to pursue other projects such as Atomic Blonde, he served as an executive producer on every John Wick film since the original in 2014. So that explains why Atomic Blonde shares a lot of the same DNA as the John Wick franchise. The Charlize Theron-led action thriller could have easily been set in the same universe, allowing a crossover between Wick and Lauren Burton, Theon's character in the film. Unfortunately, the time gap between the 2 makes it impossible. One is set in modern day while the other is set in 1989, after the collapse of the Berlin Wall. Next up, there's Gunpowder Milkshake, a female-centric film centered around a young hit woman played by Karen Gillan, who goes rogue after a mission puts an innocent young girl in the middle of a gang war she started. Sam is forced to rely on the help of her estranged mother, played by Lena Headey, and her former associates. The 2021 film seemed like a surefire hit, given the ensemble which included the likes of Angela Bassett, Michelle Yeoh, and Carla Gugino. Unfortunately, even with the big names attached to this film, it didn't quite live up to the potential it had. Finally, there's Kate, a 2021 action thriller headlined by Mary Elizabeth Winstead. The streaming film followed Kate, the titular assassin who discovered she has been poisoned after completing what was intended to be her final mission as a hit woman. With less than 24 hours to live, she goes on a hunt to exact revenge on her killers. The filmmakers behind The Ballerina can benefit from analyzing the aforementioned films, just to avoid any missteps they made when trying to replicate the John Wick formula. I'm hoping that The Ballerina could utilize the same formula, but avoid overusing it. I want the film to have a distinct style and tone that can make it unique. I was already intrigued by this project and its connections to the John Wick movies, which has done an amazing job with its world building. There are so many different organizations within the criminal underworld that could make for an interesting TV show or film. With a universe like John Wick, the possibilities are endless. Personally, I was clamoring for anything focused on the adjudicator, a character introduced in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. But that's just me wanting to see more of Aisha Kate Dillon, who absolutely crushed it in a role. The actor was a great addition to the third film, which was my favorite of the trilogy. They were the representative that operated on behalf of the criminal underworld's ruling power, the High Table. Even though the character was an antagonist to John Wick and his allies, I wanted to see more of their interactions with the cast. The character had such a presence in the film that I was intrigued about their background. If they don't receive a spin-off film, I hope we can see more of the character in the future. A more concrete idea for a spin-off would be one focused on Halle Berry, who appeared in the same film as Sofia Al-Azwa, an old contact of John Wick and the manager of the Continental Hotel in Casablanca. Her role in the movie was so well received that fans were eager to see more from the character. Unfortunately, it might be some time until we see her reprise her role. In an interview with IGN, the actress confirmed that the character wouldn't be returning for John Wick Chapter 4, but she could potentially lead her own film in the future. If I was Lionsgate, I would definitely give Halle Berry her own film. It wouldn't be difficult getting her back to play the character, since she's already interested in reprising the role. As it stands now, the actress isn't so busy that she can't figure out when it would be possible to star in her own spin-off. She's very much available. The studio just needs to make their move. I'm sure if the Ballerina blows up at the box office, the studio will be quick to greenlight more female-centric films. That could include Halle Berry's spin-off film and characters who we've yet to see in the franchise. It's interesting that the filmmakers decided to focus on an entirely new character, rather than the ones I've mentioned. Well, the Ballerina is not an entirely new character. She was seemingly introduced in the third film as a minor character. When John Wick visits the director played by Anjelica Huston, we see her training ballerinas to dance in a theater. In 2 scenes, they briefly focus on a ballerina played by Unity Phelan, who is a real ballet dancer. She was credited as ballerina in the credits. When the ballerina was announced, many assumed that she would be returning to play the lead role. I think the name ballerina was given to her because she has a scene as one, and beyond that, she wasn't meant to be setting up a future character, or playing the ballerina character we'll be following in a spin-off. But I could be wrong. In theory, it would have been interesting to have a professionally trained ballet dancer in a film that requires a combination of dancing and fighting. But Ana de Armas was the best choice for this project. She can learn both skills given enough time before production on the film starts. Also, I'm sure they will be using body doubles for the ballet sequences. Phelan can return as a double for the actress, or even appear as a John Wick 3 character, but with an actual name this time. Usually I'd go through a list of actors signed on to star in an upcoming project, but it's fairly early in the ballerina's development. At the time of this recording, de Armas is the only confirmed talent to be joining the spin-off. I imagine that once the film nears production, more information regarding the wider cast will be revealed. While I'm sure the spin-off will focus on characters who have yet to appear in any of the John Wick films, we will definitely see Anjelica Huston make a return. When it was announced that she was cast in John Wick Chapter 3, I couldn't wait to see how they would use the legendary actress. She was perfectly cast as the director, an old associate of John Wick in his early days as an assassin. In the little screen time she was given, she commanded a scream with her presence. Because the character is the head of the Roma Rusca, a crime syndicate which trains orphans into assassins, she will definitely return for the ballerina. I can't see why they wouldn't bring her back. She would be the person responsible for training de Armas' character, how to be an assassin and also a mother figure to the young woman. Compared to her role in John Wick Chapter 3, Huston will definitely have a larger presence in the ballerina. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the director and the dynamic she has with Ana de Armas' character, who will definitely need to rely on her mentor one way or another. Other than Huston, I can see John Wick making a cameo appearance, or at least being mentioned. It wouldn't be a huge ask having the actor make an appearance in the spin-off. He would definitely agree to working on the film. Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves already have a wonderful friendship since working together on Knock Knock. He liked working with the actress so much that he invited her to star in Exposed. The 2016 film marked their second time working together on a project, and hopefully not their last. Seeing the two reunite would be nice, but I don't want his presence to overshadow de Armas' character. The ballerina should mainly focus on the lead character and a supporting cast. It doesn't need John Wick to make it watchable. Having Ana de Armas is a big enough draw. Now, as confident as I am about Ana de Armas playing the lead role, there's one thing that worries me about the film, and that's the director. Len Wiseman has been attached to direct this project since it was announced in 2019. For the most part, Wiseman is a good director when it comes to his work on television, but for films it's a mixed bag. His 2003 film Underworld starring Kate Beckinsale was a promising debut for the first-time director. The movie wasn't perfect, but it had more than enough in terms of character development and world building to keep you invested in the plot. The 2006 sequel Underworld Evolution was a step down from the first film. While it had some great direction, the overall story was a slog to get through. The only reason I keep watching these films is because of Kate Beckinsale. She's always entertaining to see as Celine. No matter how bad the films are, she commits to them. If it wasn't for Wiseman, it wouldn't be an Underworld franchise. He's one of the 4 people responsible for creating this bad yet engrossing series. So hats off to him. Moving on, we have 2007's Live Free or Die Hard. The 4th installment in the Bruce Willis action franchise was a solid entry in the series. Both the direction and the writing were on top form. The latter even more so because Wiseman wasn't involved in writing the script, like he did with his previous films. Next up, he directed a reboot I was dying to see. But you know a but was coming. The 2012 Total Recall remake starring Colin Farrell was forgettable. This is one of those films that people will refer to when arguing that remakes to classics are unnecessary. You're better off watching the original 1990 film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which still holds up even more so than the flashier remake. I'm still holding out hope that this doesn't end up being as lackluster as some of his previous work, especially since he'll be working off his script from one of the screenwriters behind the John Wick films. Shea Hatton, who's worked on John Wick Chapter 3 and the upcoming sequel, will be writing the screenplay for the spin-off. I'm more confident about his involvement on this project since he has a grasp of this franchise, but I'm still a bit hesitant due to his previous work as a screenwriter. He co-wrote the screenplay for Zack Snyder's 2021 film, Army of the Dead. I wanted to love this movie, but it wasn't nearly as entertaining as I was hoping for a zombie movie directed by Zack Snyder. There are great moments throughout the film, but not enough to ignore the weak plot. That was followed by Army of the Thieves, a prequel film in a newly launched franchise. Now I really enjoyed this more than the former film, because it was more focused on a fan favorite character from the previous film. Also, this time around, the heist element to the story was actually worthwhile. Hatton also wrote and executive produced the 2021 teen horror series, I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was based on the 1973 Lewis Duncan novel of the same name. I initially went into this thinking it was a reboot/remake of the 1997 Sarah Michelle Gellar-led film of the same name, but it was a completely different adaptation that had nothing to do with the film franchise. The show and the film only shared the same plot setup. Apart from that, everything else was different. I started watching the show but dropped off after a few episodes because it lost my interest. Overall, the show was poorly received and ended up being cancelled after 1 season. I know it sounds like I'm not the biggest fan of this creative team, but that's far from the truth. Even with their combined filmography being hit or miss, I'm willing to give them a chance to surprise me with this latest venture. Maybe working together will produce something that's better than anything they've managed to make independent of each other. We can hope. It would be disappointing to see this film fall short of the high expectations set by the John Wick movies, which have gotten better and better with each entry. One bad movie wouldn't be enough to kill the franchise, but it would leave the viewers hesitant about future spin-off projects. Also, it would kill any chances of the Ballerina receiving a sequel. The fact that De Armas has boarded this project gives me a ton of faith in the overall direction for this film. Before signing on to this project, the actress would have received this script, which would have given her an indication of what the film was about and allow her to decide whether or not it was right for her. Going by her choice in projects, I'd say she has good instincts when it comes to picking what films are good and what are bad. For the most part, the actress has been involved in films that are well received by both audience and critics. She's had some duds in her career, but nothing that has affected her reputation as an actress. De Armas has had the opportunity to star in a number of major franchise films, but never as a lead. She would often play a supporting role to another big-name talent. Now that she has become a big-name talent herself, De Armas can headline just about any project she sets her sights on. The Ballerina is the perfect property for her to take center stage and become the leading actress of a franchise. Between this project and Blonde, the upcoming Marilyn Monroe biopic, Ana de Armas is going to be in the spotlight like never before, and deservedly so. She's an incredible actress. I'm looking forward to seeing both films, but the Ballerina slightly takes the edge for me, just because I enjoy seeing her kick ass. Currently there is no set release date for the film, but it's likely to come out after John Wick Chapter 4, which is set to be released in 2023. Right now the filmmakers are polishing the script and gearing up for pre-production. I'll be sure to cover any news revealed between now and the film's release, so stay tuned for updates right here on the channel. So what are your thoughts on the spin-off? And are you looking forward to seeing Ana de Armas becoming a full-on action star? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways folks, that's all for now. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed the show. Please feel free to subscribe, like, and comment below. And hey, maybe this wasn't your cup of tea. And that's okay. Just remember to take care and stay safe.